Hi, if you want to go ahead and in the comments section, just let me know who you are and where you're signing in from. We're going to get started in just a little bit, waiting for a few more people to sign on. All right, if you're just joining us, if you want to go and put your name in the comments and just where you're logging in from. We will get started in just a few minutes. And you do want to make sure that you've got all of your things set up. I've got actually 2 cups of water so that if one gets dirty, I've got a second one. I've got all my brushes in a little cup. I have all my paints here. I have several paint trays, my napkins, my drink. I've already got my pattern traced on here. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Lisa. I'm Paint the Party Mobile Art Studio, and this is my second Facebook Live class. Today we're going to be doing Groundhog's Day. And so we've got our cute little groundhog over here who is trying to decide if it's going to be a sunny day that he's going to need his sunscreen and sunglasses and a beach towel, or if it's going to be more winter. And so we've got the snow coming down, and he's got his earmuff and his little scarf, some gloves on, long sleeves, all those things. So all right, so the first thing we're going to be doing is our background, and our background is basically everything that is not our groundhog. And I did pre-trace this. I didn't trace everything, but I did trace quite a bit of it. So you can choose whatever colors you would like. On my original, I did yellow and blue. I'm going to stick with the yellow because I really kind of like how that turns out. And this time I'm going to start with some deep yellow. And again, any yellow will work. It doesn't have to be any specific color or brand or anything like that. So I've just got a little bit on my plate. And then I'm going to grab some white paint. And I'm going to take a little bit of the yellow onto my 3/4 inch flat brush, so my large flat brush, and I'm going to mix it into my white. Now, I can mix it in all the way. I can decide to mix it in just a little bit. I usually like to leave it a little streaky just because I think I like it better that way. I could add more yellow if I wanted to, but I've decided I'm just going to do a really pale yellow. So I'm going to draw a line just like that. So this part of it's going to be yellow. And I'm going to go side to side. Now when you're doing the background, you want to make sure that you're doing the same direction. I also recommend going left to right, top to bottom. So for this one here, I'm actually going side to side, so it looks more like an actual sky. This is more of a cartoonish type painting. So again, it doesn't really matter if you want to do it if you want, you can do any direction you want, but you want to make sure that you do the same direction for the entire sky or for the entire background so that it looks like it's all part of the same background. If you do up and down here and then side to side, it doesn't look like it's all part of the same background. It looks like it's different. And if you see how I kind of turn my brush sometimes so I can get into those smaller areas. But I'm making sure that I'm going that same direction the entire time. So now I've got that yellow done. I'm going to rinse my brush. I'm going to grab some blue, and I'm going to do some cobalt blue. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to start with white. I'm going to take some black, and I'm going to put it just on the side, and all I need is a dot of it. Let me go and rinse that brush off. So when you're rinsing your brush, you want to swirl it, tap it on the side of your glass, and then wipe it on your napkin. If it comes across with color, you want to do it again until it comes across clean. Right. So I'm going to dip it in the black, and then I'm going to mix it in here. So this is going to give me kind of a gray color. And again, it's just a really kind of a light gray. Then I'm going to grab a little bit of the cobalt blue. And I don't want too much of this, because I'm going more for a lighter shade on this. So you see, I've just got a tiny little bit on there, and I'm going to mix that in. I'm hoping to get a blue-gray. Okay, a little bit more black. There, that's the color I want. I'm going to draw a line right here. Oh, sorry. Going down. Oh, got it where I didn't want it. That's not a big deal. If you get paint where you didn't plan on getting paint, there. I'm just going to wipe that off, but you can always go and blow dry it and then paint over it. And so I'm going to, because again, this is going to be this, I want it to be the same background. I'm going to do top to bottom again, left to right. And I'm going to go this side to side as well. Now, if I put so much paint on that I can't see it, I can always go back, and I have a couple of options to remove some of that paint. I can wipe it on my napkin, my brush, and then go back over it and pull some of that paint off. And then wiping it on the brush, and just keep doing that until I can see it. I can also just take my napkin and wipe it so that you can see it. Usually that's an easier way to do it, but it just depends on what kind of a look that you're going for. Now, short strokes always give you more sense of texture, more sense of movement, where longer strokes are going to give you a smoother, more tranquil look. So you might want to do smoother lines over here and then do more shorter lines over here to give it more sense of a movement, because it's supposed to be a winter. So now I've got those two. Again, I'm going to rinse my brush. And dry it off. Make sure you get all that water off. So I'm going to do just a dot of the purple, or violet, and then some of the cobalt blue. And I'm going to mix those together first. And then I'm going to just let's see, need more purple. There. So now I'm just going to fill it in. And I do have a dog who is currently telling me that I'm ignoring her. She's rather needy. Now, as you can see, I've got it. It's pretty much like 3 lines right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush that I just put the paint on it, and I'm going to wipe it off on my napkin. And then I'm going to start pulling a little bit this way. Just blending it that little bit. I'm going to rinse it. And then I'm going to pull just a little bit this way. So there I've got it kind of shaded. I can do more shading if I want, or I can just leave it more like that. And so I think I'm going to do just a little bit more shading, just kind of do it back and forth a little bit more blending. There. Now, before I get too carried away, I want to put snow on this side of it. So I'm going to do that before I paint my groundhog, just so that I don't well, actually, it doesn't really matter. I am going to wait. I just decided that. I was going to do that. I was going to put my snow on first, but no, because I want part of him to have snow on him. So now we're going to move on to our groundhog. And so we're actually going to start with our hat on the top. And again, you can make that top hat any color you'd like. I'm going to do the black top hat. I just kind of like how the black top hat looks. But I'm going to add a little bit of the deep red for the band on it this time. So I'm going to go to an angled brush. So before we were talking about a flat brush that was straight across. So the angle brush is just that. It's at an angle. And what's nice about it is that, one, it'll do nice curves. You can do it the narrow way, or you can do it the wide way when you're painting. Now for the hat, I'm going to start for the top part of the hat. I'm just going to do a line straight down, and you see how I'm doing just that narrow brush. And then I'm going to start pulling it in from the side, and then from the other side. This is going to help give it that illusion of roundness. I can take a little bit of white and add it on there. I'm just going to put that right there in the center. Again, that's going to give it that illusion of it being dimensional rather than flat. Come back and add a little bit more black into it. I'm going to go narrow here. That's going to be black. And I'm going to come right up to my earmuff. So as you can see, now he's got that hat going on. I'm going to get a 1/4 inch flat brush and then the deep red. Now red's notorious for needing a second coat, so we will probably need to put a second coat on this. But when you're doing a second coat, you always want to make sure that your first coat is dry before you put your second coat on. And you can see how it's kind of light there and you can see through it. So we will let it dry. Otherwise, all we're going to do is take off that first coat of paint. So I'm just going to leave my brush here inside my, on my red so I can come back to it. All right, next we're going to start on our actual groundhog and getting his body painted. You can use whatever colors you would like for your groundhog. On my original, I used burnt sienna and raw sienna with white added to it. And I like the coloring on there, but I think this time I'm going to try doing a little bit darker shade here. So I'm going to go with the burnt umber this time, which is, so this is more of a dark brown. And I'm actually going to get a second tray for my paint. So I've got the dark brown on there. I've got some white. I've got some black still over here on my other tray that I can use. And I think that's what I'm going to start with. Now, again, I'm going to stick with an angle brush for this because it'll help me make those nice little fur portions of it. So I'm going to start with painting all of the dark portions first. So I've got in here and around this little eye. Now, I should probably use a smaller brush. I've been doing this for quite some time, and so I've gotten used to just kind of improvising with using a larger brush. I'm going to go right up to the earmuff there. And then I'm going to come over here on this side of him and then come down and follow his chin. And actually I'm going to go all the way up there and follow the portion of his mouth. So we're going to use his mouth as the dividing line there. I'm going to start up here then. I'm going to use this as my dividing line, the flashlight. Now if you notice, I'm doing just some short strokes and I'm pulling them down because that's the direction that his fur would be going in. I'm going to do his arm there. Do his fingers. And again, if you need a smaller brush, definitely switch to a smaller brush. Because just because a brush works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. So now I am going to pull this over the top of that line. And then it's going to go right along here. I'm kind of curving that a little bit. And then right along his foot and his tail. I'm doing just a few of these little bristle things so that it looks more like fur. Just a little bit over here, just on that edge. And then I am going to switch to a smaller brush, one of my smaller detail brushes, to do his fingers. Fill in a little bit more in here. Oh, and we do want to bring this down that way. There. Just kind of going through, making sure that I've got good coverage here. Define his fur a little bit more. Okay. I'm going to take a little bit of this, and I'm going to mix it into my brown, or into my white, I'm sorry, to make a tan color. And that looks like a good color. although I do kind of like that more yellowish color. So I think I am going to go and change that. I'm going to do some yellow oxide. And a little bit of white. Here's my paintbrush. So. I can add a little bit of the brown to it. There. I like that color. So when you are painting, you can actually turn your painting any direction that you want to make it easier for you to paint. So I'm going to go right along here. I'm going to make this a little bit smoother than I did the other part of his fur. I'm also going to paint right up in here underneath my flashlight. Oh. There we go. I'll do my 1/4 inch flat brush to do the rest of his face. I probably could have gotten away with just a smaller detail brush, but there we go. So I'm going to grab some of the black now, and I'm going to add that into my burnt umber, so I get kind of a really, really dark blackish brown color. And I think a little bit more black. You can always add more. It's really hard to take it away if you've added too much. So that's why I always say just add a little bit at a time and then just keep adding it till you get the shade that you want. So this is going to be now some of my shading. Do some little hairs there on his face. Okay. Do a little bit on his back here, on his tail. Definitely want to do his feet. I'm going to do his hands. And so I am going to switch over to my smaller detail brush for this. Oh. Don't want to have it too gloopy. there. A little bit right there. There we go. Oh, I'm going to do the little cuff right there too. Actually, I think I'm going to do that little cuff black. There we go. Now, I'm going to go up here to my band on my hat again, and I'm going to do my second coat. I could do a third coat if I still thought it needed it, but I think that that second coat's doing a good job there. I'm going to do my detail brush. Take some black and a little bit of the white. Maybe a little bit more black. A little bit more. And a dark gray. There we go. So I'm going to do right down the edge. And then I'm just going to go and pull a little bit in. This is where our sun is reflecting off of our hat. I'm going to go and I'm going to do some of the brim of the hat. I'm just going to go right along the edge here. So just a little subtle. And this one I have it a little bit more pronounced, but yeah, it all works. I'm going to go in and I'm going to paint around his eyes white. Here we go. I can come in with the black and paint the center of the eyes. Now when you're doing eyes, you always want to add just that tiny little dot of white in there so that it makes the eyes alive. Otherwise they're just kind of dead eyes. But you want to make sure that they're both going the same place. So see the difference that just that tiny little dot makes? All right. Next I'm going to do his nose. And again, his nose is going to be black. And for this, I'm going to go and I'm going to do a little bit around the top portion of it. Follow it down. And then I'm just going to pull it straight down. I'm going to add just a little bit of white right on the tip of his nose. I'll wipe that off my brush and then do a little pull down. There we go. Okay, now I can decide what color I want his scarf and his earmuff to be. So he's got red on there. So I think maybe I'm going to stick with some red, and I'm trying to think what green is the complementary color of red, but I don't think I want to go green this time. Maybe I want to go gold. Some red and gold. And those who know me know that I never do the paintings the same colors, the same every time. I always change up the colors and change up how I do it. So I'm going to start with the earmuff. I'm just going to start doing little, what's called daubing. And it's just taking my brush and I'm putting it up and down. So it gives it kind of that fluffy look of earmuffs. So I decided I wanted to do thinner stripes of with the gold. So again, I'm just kind of and I'm going to have to do a second coat before I can do the gold. There we go. Maybe we'll have a silver flashlight. Just the handle. And this I do have to paint around those fingers. There we go. So for our sunglasses, I'm thinking maybe orange, and So I'm going to use an acrylic marker for that instead of the paint. There. And so you see there's his nose is covering part of his sunglasses there. So he's just got that little bit of orange there. Oh, I see a little spot that I missed on the black. I'm going to have to fill that in before I can add the little sunshade to it. There. I think my hat got a little off, so I'm going to fix, just add an extra line down there. Okay. Maybe we want to do, if we've got orange sunglasses, do we want to, yeah, let's do a tropical towel. And so I'm going to start with green. I'm going to do that first for my towel. Again, you can do whatever colors you would like, or color or colors. In my original, it was the white towel. So this is just going to be the base color of my towel. And I think I'm going to need a second coat of this green as well. So I'll wait and do a second coat of that and just leave that there. And let's see. Get out of there, spot. Right, so I'm going to add some more of this, and then I'm going to come back through and I'm going to do a second coat. Now on my red, because my flashlight's here, I'm only, the bottom part of it where the flashlight is, where the light is from the flashlight, I'm not going to do the second coat there. Just go right over the top of each one of these. Okay. And I'm going to want to rinse my brush. And then I can come in with the gold. I think the gold was a good choice here. All right, I got a little bit of red on there, so I'm going to wipe that off. Wipe it off again. Now, if I want to put some fringe on here, just use the edge. I'll add a few little speckles of the gold into the red on the earmuffs. That way it's all matching. Doesn't have to. First one I didn't match them at all. Right. I can add some little red fringe. Yeah. I'm going to use one of my dot brushes, and that's just it's just a paintbrush that is missing its bristle. And I think we're going to do some orange on this one. I'm just going to dip it into the lid here. And I'm just going to put the little orange dot for the on and off switch from my flashlight. So our groundhog can see a shadow. Now we've got a bottle of sunscreen here. So I need to decide what color I want to do my bottle of sunscreen. And I think we want to do yellow because, you know, it's sunscreen. So I'm just doing the deep yellow that I had before that I mixed in to make that light yellow. And then just the 1/4 inch flat brush. And then I'll just do a little bit of a gray lid. Yeah. Now, I'm going to work on my cloud, and then I'm going to work on my sun over here. So for my cloud, I think I'm going to do, I've got some silver still here, so I'm going to do some of the purple and some of the silver. Move that out of the way. So I'll just mix a little of that together. Okay, maybe I'm going to mix it all. And I'm going to grab some white, kind of swirl that in there a little bit. All right. And we'll just make a nice little cloud here. A little bit darker purple here and there. I'm just kind of free forming this because I lost my clouds. It's probably still there, but I'm not seeing it, so yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Let's just add a few more little okay, yeah, that looks like a nice little cloud. Do this bright yellow for my sun here. Now, my blue's kind of showing through there, and I really don't want that, so I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to paint it white, and then I'm going to paint yellow over it again. And that way it'll go and hide the blue that's in there. I'm going to do a second coat. My green. I'm going to add a little bit of my burnt umber to my green so I can get a darker green without making it black. You can see here how it's starting to darken up. There. I can do the little portion under here. Do my little shading in the folds. There we go. All right, I'm going to grab a black marker. Again, it's a paint pen. One of the things you want to remember with the paint pens, if you're using an actual paint pen, so you push them down to get them started, but never push down on your canvas because you'll get a blob of ink on there that you can't get rid of because this is an oil based and we're using acrylic. So I'm just going to add those details to the eyes here. Do my sun here. Now, if I wanted to, I could actually just finish outlining it all right now, but I'm going to wait just a little bit longer yet. And I do have to do my yellow for my flashlight. So I'm going to do my 1/4 inch flat brush. Make sure that my brush is clean. And I'm actually going to use that color that I used in my sky. And I'm going to do what's called dry brushing. So I've got the paint on here. I'm going to wipe it off. There we go. And then I'm just going to very lightly paint over. Get the paint. And it just gives that little bit of light illusion. And I'll put it a little closer so it's easier to see that. But you can see how it's got that little bit, it looks like it's got light going on there. All right, grab some white here. There. Okay, now we'll let that dry again. So I'm going to do that same dry brushing technique that I did for my flashlight for my sunglasses. So I'm going to do it this time with the black though. So again, dip it in here, wipe it off, and then just very lightly go over the top, and it's going to give it that shading look. Like you've got sun shades on. Okay, so while I'm waiting for my sun to dry, I am going to go and start doing some of my details. Now, because this is more cartoonish, I am going to stick with doing black lines. Now, I could do colored lines if I wanted to. Now, these lines are going to hide a multitude of sins. And it just kind of straightens out those edges really nicely. There we go. Now, do his nose. Now, with the paint pens, you do want to remember that they only work on dry paint or on unpainted surfaces. So if you try doing it on wet paint, it will ruin the paintbrush. You won't get any color, but it'll ruin the actual paint pen. Okay, and we're going to do okay. Now I do still have to add the details into my towel, but I'm gonna hold off on that. But I am going to go around the edges of my towel. Yeah. There's his little foot. I'm going to add some little fur here. Add in his arm, little cuff. His hand. All right, sorry, I have to let the dog out. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, outline the scarf. Some little squiggles around here. Okay. Okay, there's my little cloud there. Okay, I'm going to paint my sun yellow. There, that looks good. Okay, I think the only thing I have to do my towel, and then I'm going to add my snowflakes. So, let me see if I can do these with the paint pen instead of the... So I'm just doing some little flowers here. You could do polka dots, you could do stripes on your towels if you wanted to. There's really no right or wrong. And put some little yellow into the center for that one. And let's do a pink one. And again, we'll put a few little yellow dots in the center there. Okay, let's do the next color here, and if you notice how I'm kind of doing, some of them are going off, some of them you can see all of it. Okay, I think we need a purple one. Some yellow dots. There we go. And didn't grab any green, so I could add some more leaves. So I'm going to have to go find a green paint pen real quick. Let's see. Okay. Here's a nice little lime green, and we can add some leaves. Just add a few of those. There. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using my toothbrush to make my snow. So I've still got that 1 cup of water that I haven't touched yet. So I dipped my brush into it, tapped it the toothbrush a couple of times. I'm going to put my paint on, and I'm using white. You could use whatever color you wanted for your snow. But I put it on just like toothpaste. I want to hold it perpendicular to my painting and rather close. I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to pull back. And you can see now he's partially got snow, and the other part's got the sun. Oh, I still need to put the little face on the sun. And I'll just go outline it with the black. The only thing left to do now is to sign my painting. Now you can sign it with your full name. You can sign it with your initials. I do my first initial, my last name. I know someone whose nickname is Lollipop, so she draws a lollipop for her signature. So however you would like to sign it, but you always want to sign it so that people know who created it. And let's see. I'm just going to put it right down here. And there we go. I hope you enjoyed today and that you were able to follow along. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out and ask. And have a nice rest of your evening. Sit. My very impatient Bill. Oh. Hey, no. We've had these discussions before. Okay.